The hotel room was silent, unnervingly so, the kind of quiet that doesn't rest. It lingers. The minibar buzzed softly in the corner. A dim bulb above the desk flickered once, as if debating whether to give out, and the air conditioner ticked just enough to remind me I wasn't dreaming. I was 500 miles from home, sipping cheap whiskey from a plastic cup, half watching an infomercial about high-powered flashlights. Then my phone rang. I nearly didn't pick up. The screen flashed Maddie's name, and she never called this late. My thumb hesitated, pulse already climbing. I answered on the third ring. "Daddy." Her voice was thick with tears. "Daddy, Mommy's boyfriend hit me again." He warned if I told you he'd hurt you too. Time froze, my chest tightened, but words wouldn't come. My little girl, 8 years old, barely able to reach the sink without a step stool, was sobbing so hard I could hear her gasping. "Where's your mom?" I managed to ask. She didn't respond, just more crying. Then her voice muffled like she was speaking through a blanket. "She's not here. He's shouting in the kitchen." I forced my voice steady. "Okay, sweetheart, lock your door. Don't open it for anyone but me, understand?" She sniffled, then whispered, "Okay." Then I heard it, a second voice. "Male louder now. Tell her daddy he's next." The call cut off. I stared at the screen. For a moment I forgot how to breathe. My name's Cole Riker. I'm 43, divorced 3 years, remarried 2. My ex-wife got full custody, convincing the courts I was too volatile, that my history made me a threat. She never said it directly, but the suggestion was enough. The suggestion that I might lose control. That because I once wore a uniform, carried a rifle, served in units that didn't officially exist, I couldn't be trusted with bedtime stories or homework checks. I tried to live normally after I left that life. Private consulting, clean work, safe work. I buried that other part of me until tonight. I set the phone down carefully on the nightstand. Not rage, not panic, just cold clarity. I crossed the room in 3 strides, opened the bathroom mirror, and pulled out the hidden panel inside the cabinet. Taped to the back was a sleek black travel pouch with a TSA-approved kit inside. Most people pack toothpaste and razors. Mine held a suppressor, custom-threaded barrel, no serial number. I stared at it, not long, just enough to recall what it meant to retrieve it. Then I grabbed my burner phone from inside my boot, powered it on, and dialed a number I hadn't touched in 9 years. It rang once, then twice. Then "Still alive," a voice answered. "I need a car and a backup in the air in 2 hours." Silence. Then "Got a name?" "Mark." Another pause. "You back in?" I didn't respond. "Terminal D in 90. He hung up. I stood in that hotel bathroom, staring at my reflection. I didn't see the man my wife left, not the one she smeared in court. I saw who I was before and what I swore I'd never become again. But when your daughter says she's too scared to speak because the man in her house threatened you too, you don't call attorneys. You call war. I packed light, just enough to breeze through TSA without raising eyebrows. Everything else I needed was waiting at the other end. At the airport, I kept quiet. Not a word to the cab driver, the check-in agent, or the overly cheery flight attendant at the gate. When I settled into row 3 window seat, he was already there. Faded jacket, faint scar along his jaw, looking like he'd walked out of a covert op and into a suit he didn't choose. He didn't grin, just slid a boarding pass with a new name across to me. "Still a fan of Redback?" he asked. I didn't flinch. He nodded once, leaned back, and shut his eyes like it was just another late flight to Dallas. But I wasn't headed to Dallas. I was going home, and I wasn't alone. The key turned in the lock, but I didn't wait for the door to open. I pushed inside like I belonged, like I hadn't been gone. The hinges creaked, familiar, stiff, unwelcoming. The kind of sound you overlook until you're listening for it. The kind that hits different when you show up unannounced. She glanced up from the kitchen like I'd stepped out of a bad dream. Not surprise, not shame, just a tight smile masking irritation. "Cole," she said, stretching my name like a question. "You didn't say you were coming." "Didn't know I was," I replied, dropping my bag by the coat rack I'd bought 2 Christmases back. "Surprise." She blinked twice, straightened her stance, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and moved toward me with a hug that stopped short of starting. I didn't raise my arms. Mark lounged on the couch, socks off, her slippers on, gripping the remote like he owned it. His shirt was half unbuttoned, his beer sweating onto one of my old coasters. He raised the bottle toward me. "Hey, didn't know you were in town." I stared at him like he was a stain on a window. "Neither did I," he grinned anyway. "Big mistake. I didn't react, didn't ball my fists or call out what I already knew." My daughter came running down the hall before I could say more. Her eyes locked on mine and the world fell away. She ran fast, barefoot, pink pajamas flapping, and I dropped to a knee, catching her, holding her like I was trying to memorize her weight again. She shook against me, not from cold. I whispered into her hair, "It's okay. I'm here now." She didn't speak, just clung tighter. Behind us, I heard the clink of glass in the kitchen. My wife, Kara, pouring wine she didn't deserve. I stood, forced a smile. Thought I'd work from home a few days. Surprise, Maddie. Be a family. Kara nodded too quickly. Of course, I just wish I'd known. I would've. Tidied up, I offered, her lips pursed. Prepared. Right, dinner was takeout. Mark stayed, claiming he was fixing a leak, then sat through dinner like he was part of the family album. I didn't blink, didn't argue. I asked about his job, acting like I didn't know his pay stubs were fake and the garage full of parts didn't match any invoices. After Maddie was asleep, I offered to take out the trash. Mark chuckled, "Hey, it's your house." I grabbed his boots from the mat by the door, slipped one into a plastic bag, walked it to the curb, and planted a tracker under the insole before returning it to the garage. Inside, Kara was pretending to sort laundry. She didn't ask where I'd been. I didn't tell her. That night, I waited until the house went quiet. 1:30 a.m., roughly. Kara snored softly, curled on the edge of the bed. I moved silently, old instincts, no creaks, no lights. I pulled my gear from the false bottom of my old briefcase, the one they said was too dated for corporate life. Tiny ceramic mics, half an inch wide, hidden in vent grates, light fixtures, wall joints. I set them up in under an hour. Wires fed into a hidden panel in the hallway closet, built years ago for a day like this. She never knew I'd wired our home for surveillance the day we moved in. I just upgraded the system. By morning, I had audio streams mapped, signal jammers tested, and motion alerts active. My old skills weren't just returning. They were waking up like dormant predators. Maddie found me on the patio, sipping black coffee, jotting notes I'd pass off as work. She sat close, quiet. "Mom said you're staying for a bit," she said. "I am." She stared at her hands, fidgeting. "Is Mark staying too?" I paused. "Do you want him to?" She shook her head, hesitated, then pulled a crumpled drawing from her pajama pocket, crayon on paper, lines shaky, rushed. Stick figures, one was her, one was Kara, one labeled Mark, holding a gun. The fourth was Dad, a red circle around his chest. I held the paper silently, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew too much. This wasn't just bruises, it was a warning. Kids draw what they can't say aloud. I folded the paper, tucked it into my notebook, and kissed her forehead. Later, I ran Mark's alias through a backdoor trace app from my old life. Results came quick, too quick. 3 assault charges, 1 sealed DEA file, last known job at a body shop that didn't exist online. A front. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Mark wasn't just a violent leech. He was linked to a network moving small-batch drugs through suburban laundromats and fake therapy offices. Kyra had opened one of those offices 2 months ago. No license, just a shell for laundering cash. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a business, and I was about to shut it down. The nurse met me at the front desk with that look. Forced smile, raised brows, pretending this was normal. She led me down a bright hallway to a small room with a padded exam table, a blood pressure monitor, and a cartoon poster about hygiene. She said she fell, the nurse said, flipping open a file, tripped on the gym stairs. Did she? I asked. She paused. There are stairs, but the bruises don't add up. She slid a photo across. My daughter's back, 2 dark, broad marks, too even for a fall, flat like a belt or a palm. I know the difference between an accident and a warning, I said softly. She didn't reply, just shut the file like it was toxic and said she'd have to report it if the injuries continued. I'd heard that before. Everyone's bold until the forms come out. I kissed Maddie's head before I left, promised I'd pick her up later. She smiled, but her eyes didn't follow. Back in the driveway, I crouched by Kyra's car. The tire pressure was low on one side. Perfect cover. I slipped a magnetic mic into the wheel well, another in the trunk lining, a third under the dashboard. I synced them to my phone while pretending to check the valve cap. She never asked what I was doing, just called from the porch, "I'll be late, double session." "No rush," I said. That night I listened. At 7:12 p.m., she made a call, voice low, calculated. "Mark, listen. He's acting off. No, he hasn't said anything, but he's watching me." A pause. I heard her car engine hum, her nail tapping the steering wheel. "I don't know what he suspects, but we move tomorrow. 10 p.m., he'll be out by then. Make it look like a burglary, and Mark, if the kid sees anything, she's done too." My breath left in a single, silent exhale. I sat in the dark, hearing my wife condemn our daughter like she was scheduling a meeting. They thought I was asleep in that house, playing family. but I was mapping every corner like a battlefield. The attic became an armory. I pried open the beams and stashed 2 Glock 19s, both with threaded barrels. Extra mags went into a sealed container labeled Christmas decorations. I secured a compact M4 under the staircase in a guitar case untouched since 2019. I reactivated the old security network routed through the cable box. They thought the cameras were dead. I watched them move through the house like strangers. Every window got a sensor. Every door had a silent alarm linked to my watch. The back patio was wired with pressure pads, set to ping my burner phone if crossed. They weren't entering my home. They were stepping into a trap. I spent the weekend teaching Maddie a game I once used with recruits: find the safe spot. I showed her hiding places, crawl spaces, called it a spy mission. She giggled, thought it was fun. I marked each spot with a faint UV sticker, visible only with my keychain light. She never asked why, just said, "I love this game, Daddy." After she slept, I sat in the garage, lights off, safe open. Inside, a SIG P226, a burner phone, 3 IDs, and a folded photo of my first wife, Claire. She died in Tripoli, a botched extraction. She bled out on the tarmac as I held her hand, lying about the medevac's arrival. I quit after that. Left the agency, the shadows. Swore I'd never return, but some shadows follow you. Maddie was my anchor, my reason to be gentle, to be steady. But gentleness is a weakness, and steady gets you dead. Kara had made her choice. She wasn't just cheating or lying, she was conspiring. I wasn't going to just stop them. I'd make them wish they'd never spoken my name. At 10:42 p.m., I poured a whiskey I wouldn't drink and replayed the audio. Her voice was steady, rehearsed. "Mark, tomorrow at 10, make it chaotic." He's clueless. Then Mark, naive and cruel, replied, "If the kid sees anything, she's done too." I sat in the dark, letting those words sink in. Tomorrow they'd come. Tonight I didn't sleep. The steak was flawless, medium rare, garlic butter hissing in the pan, rosemary crisped on top. She plated it like a chef, centered, garnished, wine decanted. Candlelight flickered in her eyes like all was well, like this wasn't the final act. "There he is," she said, flashing the smile I once loved. "Thought we needed a reset, just us?" I nodded, pulling out my chair. The wood scraped louder than I meant. She didn't react. She poured the wine with a steady hand. Her dress was too fitted, new lipstick, pricey perfume, all a performance. She handed me a glass and raised hers. "To new starts." I clinked mine lightly. "To tomorrow." Her jaw twitched just for a second, but I saw it. "I always do." She laughed, light and measured. "You're not going to explain that, are you?" I sliced the steak. "Not yet." We made small talk after. She chatted about The Neighbor's Gate, a new fitness class, some series we should watch. I nodded, smiled. Her words were just noise, static on a dead channel. After dinner, she cleared the plates, said she had to call her sister. "Another crisis," she said, eyes rolling. "She's so dramatic." "Take your time," I said. She kissed my cheek just hard enough to sell it and stepped outside, wine glass in hand. I waited 6 seconds, then tapped my watch twice. The garage drone, hidden in a bin labeled garden supplies, hummed to life and lifted off. I tracked her on the feed as she got into her car and drove off. She wasn't going to her sister's. I went back to the living room, turned on the news for cover, but my focus was on the security grid, 12 hidden cameras in a layout. Every door was rigged, every hallway prepped. I checked the final triggers. Pressure plates, set to release a silent air burst to start the defense system. The sentry turret, tucked above the laundry door, held non-lethal rounds, meant to stun, not kill. The flash corridor, a tight hallway with 3 embedded magnesium flares, set to ignite when a body crossed the infrared beam. They weren't entering a house. They were entering a memory built from shrapnel and old wounds. At 9:47 p.m., I was in bed, lights off, shirt off, facing the wall like every night. At 9:57 they came. First, the back patio door. No glass breaking, just a soft click as the lock was picked. Then the hallway window slid open, cautious steps. Then the laundry hatch through the utility room. 3 men. Mark was one. They moved like rookies faking expertise. Soft steps, hand signals, gear they didn't understand. But they missed one thing. This wasn't a break-in. It was an invitation. As the first crossed the kitchen mat, the pressure plate triggered. 5 seconds of quiet. Then the sentry turret hissed, firing 3 precise shots. 2 hit his chest. 1 grazed his leg. He collapsed, gasping. The second guy moved to help. Bad choice. He hit the flash corridor. The flares detonated, blinding white light. Screams, chaos. Mark shoved past them, heading for the stairs. He had the gun. He was in charge. He didn't know I was waiting at the top. I stepped out of the bedroom, took 1 step down. He froze. His gun came up too slow. Mine didn't. I shot his knee. He screamed, tumbled backward, crashing down the stairs like a broken crate. I followed slowly. No hurry, no rush, just ice-cold focus. He crawled, tried to stand. I kicked his arm out from under him. "Remember what you said?" I asked. "If the kid sees anything, she's gone too." He spat blood, tried to speak. "Crawl," I said. He hesitated. I fired a round into the floor by his hand. He crawled, all the way to the living room. She stood in the doorway, mouth open. Eyes wide, hair wet, phone in hand. She dropped her glass. He collapsed at her feet, gasping, blood pooling fast. She screamed, dropped to her knees. "Mark." "Oh my God, Mark." I walked in, steady, rifle in one hand, zip ties in the other. She looked up, frantic. You did this?" I didn't answer. I grabbed her wrist, twisted, pinned her to the wall, and secured the ties. She kicked, cursed, screamed my name like it still mattered. "You said I'd be next," I whispered in her ear. "But I was first to be betrayed, first to bleed, and now first to end this." I pulled her to a chair. Sat her beside Mark, whose breathing was fading. "You wanted chaos," I said. "Smile." I stepped back, pulled out my burner, dialed a number etched in my mind. A calm voice answered. "Ready?" "It's done," I said. "Initiate Shadow Protocol 6 MINUTES." I hung up. They were already coming. The van rolled up silently, matte gray, no plates. No sirens, no shouts, just one sharp knock on the back door, 3 short, 1 long. I answered with a nod. 2 men entered, black jackets, no badges, no names. One secured her cuffs to a reinforced strap and led her out. No questions, no rights read, just swift, silent justice. Mark was gone. The 3rd body to hit the morgue that night. The others didn't make it either. Cleanup was quick, professional. By morning, neighbors were told it was a gas leak. The shattered tiles, the holes, the blood, all gone under a 3-man crew. They took her through the garden she never tended. Past the rose bush she claimed to plant. She didn't scream or beg. She just stared ahead like she could will this away. I didn't watch her go. 2 weeks later, I sat behind one-way glass in a room that reeked of bleach and shadows. My suit collar pinched. The room buzzed with old vents and colder bureaucracy. Across from me, she sat in cuffs again, wrists chained to the table, ankles bolted to the floor. Her hair was darker, dyed maybe to hide, maybe to forget herself. She hadn't seen sunlight in 13 days. She looked up. I didn't. I read my statement to the panel. Agents, analysts, lawyers, no emotion, no hesitation, just facts. Abuse, fraud, conspiracy, her voice on tape, her face on video. My daughter's bruises documented by 3 agencies. They asked if I wanted to add a personal statement for sentencing. I passed. She watched me stand. She didn't call my name, didn't speak. Just stared like she thought I'd turn back. I didn't. They processed her under Directive 7F, a closed-door prosecution for civilians tied to trafficking networks. No press. No trials, just life in a place no map acknowledges. She'd never see a courtroom. No appeals. She'd simply disappear. That was the design. But Maddie? That was different. I picked her up from school one last time. She ran into my arms like nothing had changed, like the past weeks never happened. I held her tighter than ever. We drove north, past the highways, past the signs, past the weight of it all. My sister lives in a town with a hardware store that creaks and a diner where folks leave keys at the counter. She's always had the gentle touch, the soft voice, the way of turning pain into calm. She met us at the porch. No questions, just open arms and chamomile tea brewing. I unpacked Maddie's bag in a guest room that smelled like lavender, showed her the nightlight, tucked her in. She looked up with the same eyes I saw the day she was born, eyes that didn't ask for this. "Are you staying?" she whispered. I kissed her forehead. "I'll always be near." I stepped out and shut the door before she could see me crack. I left before dawn. No goodbye, didn't want to hear her ask why. Back at the cabin, I found the old photo in a desk drawer, our wedding night. Smiling, champagne glasses raised, her in white. Me in my only tux. The photo was creased, faded from neglect. I held it over the fireplace too long, then let it go. The flames took the edges first. Her face burned faster than mine. By the time it hit the embers, it was ash and memory. The man in that photo was gone. She didn't kill him. I buried him. I packed light. 1 bag, 1 rifle, 1 burner phone. I slipped a single new ID into the wallet. Michael Drenner. Logistics consultant. Issued last year. Never used, no connections, no history. I slung the rifle over my shoulder and stepped into the gray morning mist. The cabin door creaked shut behind me. I didn't lock it. Nothing left to protect. I walked past the tree line. Past the fence I built to keep predators out. Past the last place her scent lingered. I wasn't her husband anymore, not even a father now. Just a ghost moving toward the next fight. They thought they'd broken me.